Right, so I'll give you a quick update. Can't remember where I got to last time. We have got roof gutters on. They are quite awkward to get on. You can see that I haven't pushed these bits back in. Those two little ribs those need pushing in to click in, but they'll go nice and straight. I had enough clips left over for those. I bought a pack for the other side. So they're all on. We've got door handles on. I bought new seals for those. Not the best fitting, but they do the job and they're on there. So now got opening and closing doors, which is awesome. We've got the rear plates on, and the badge I think I showed you last time. So that's the dealer plates. It's looking really good. What else have we done? Bear with. Bit more on the engine bay. Radiator. The radiator was in very good nick actually, so all I've done is pressure test it. So I just mocked up some bits and bobs. It quite happily held 1.52 bar for quite a while. I think the system should only work at like 14-15 psi, so I'm happy with that. Radiator guard's been cleaned up. I did go to put the motor on there, but the motor, I stripped it apart and had a look, and the bearing end of it's shot to pieces, so I'll just buy a new motor for that and get it in at some point. A few more cables in. I've got speedo, it's a bit dusty in here, speedo in, throttle cable in, clutch cable in, most of the wire in, a few more bungs in. What else have we done? Losing track of what I've done. The boot sticker's on its way, so I can get the decal on the back, the rear window back and the spoiler back on. I'm picking a frontal screen up from Dubstock Monday, so I can get the screen in, and then I can get obviously a bit more plastic trims on the A-pillars. Main thing we have is we've got the engine mac. So it's been out, bored out, 83mm. Picked it up the other day. Got some paint on it. There's a few people have commented about the block wasn't decked. Now, decking the block is making sure the top surface is perpendicular to the centre line of the crankshaft. I didn't ask for it to be done, didn't want it to be done, because I'm not building a race engine. I know the surface is flat and clean. Like I say, it's just bored out, sticking a head up with some cams and enjoying it. Yes, if I wasn't to build it full spec'd out race engine, then yeah, I'd want this decked. But then when you start taking material off this, you then can run into problems depending on how much was taken off there and how much was skimmed off the cylinder head. You've then got to work out deck height, which is centre line of the crankshaft, the top of there, and then head, and then all individual squash measurements for the head gasket and per cylinder, all that sort of. Not interested in that. I want to get in the car and use it. So yeah, that's all bored out, done. Painting the block. It looks better this side. Lovely colour on it. I couldn't resist getting some more engine mount, a drive shaft cover. I've got core plugs coming for it still. Crankshaft bearings, bits and bobs. Water pumps on, brackets on, breathers on. Dipstick tube's been cleaned up, and that's on. I have then got intermediate shaft. Just ordered some seals for it, new seal for that, so I'll wait for that to come up. Got some engine assembly lube, which is sort of thick oil really, so it's not going to dry out, so when you actually go to start the engine, it's not going to start running dry on bearings. And this, my little jigsaw, is the fuel injection pump. This is the XR3i one I've used, because I've said before I cocked up the Golf one. So modification wise on this, I've opened out the outputs on there. On the 16 valve metering unit, they were 0.9mm. These gone up to 2mm, which will flow plenty of fuel, but obviously then they've used adjustable, so you can adjust it. I'll adjust it down slightly when I come to rebuild it. Banjo bolts, they've been opened out slightly, 3.2mm I think they were. The main modification I've done is the fuel pin. So fuel pin and fuel thingy. So there's a little line inside there, which is where your fuel comes out. Fuel comes in that hole, and relevant to when you put your foot on the throttle, that pin moves up and down inside there like so. And it will, at a certain point, it starts uncovering this slit inside there and lets fuel through. So what I've done is I've tapered down the actual main pin. So there we go, that side's there. So from that there, that's the normal thickness. Obviously I've tapered that down. So that is approximately 50% so of that slit. So about 50% throttle. When that moves up there, it's going to start to allow more fuel to come through. So that's my that was my plan. So I'm going to try that. If it doesn't work, I can just put it back to the stand and get a different pin. There's no issue. So that's what I've tried doing it. So we're just waiting for a rebuild kit, rebuild all that. I can get all that all tested. Well, eventually when it goes back together. So yeah, don't be afraid to try things. I'm interested in seeing what's going on. There's not a lot to go wrong. It's just springs and bits and bobs. You read up on how the system works. It's quite, in my eyes, it was easy to see. Okay, right, I can change that bit. That should get more fuel through it. It is adjustable. So obviously, if I'm getting too much fuel lower down, I can adjust that. And obviously, hopefully, higher at the rev range, I've got a bit more fuel. So we'll see how that works out in the coming months. So the next plan on the engine is I need to clean the oil filter housing up, get the oil filter housing in there. This is the oil pressure, so that's where your pump shafts, it comes up in there, and that's where the oil builds up pressure into there and flows through all the galleys in the engine. So the top tip, or what I've done a few times, is use your airline if you've got it, and bung that up with your airline so you can open the airline into that. And then when the air is going through there, you can check every single bearing surface where the oil should be coming out through on the crank and everything, to make sure those are all free and clear, like the ones on the intermediate shaft. A little hole there, so that's just a drain off, but you've got a pressure hole somewhere else. But so you've got the ones on the crank and everything, all these. So you want to make sure that all the air's coming through those. Before I start reassembling anything, like I said, parts come out the cranks, going to go back in with crank seals, intermediate shaft, and go back in with the seals. And then a few more bits can go on. Get a new oil pump, get the oil pump stuck in, and I can clean these bits up, get them on there. I'm not going to run the standard oil cooler on this, the oil to water one, because they're not most efficient, so that's not going to be put on. I'm going to run an oil cooler on it. So that will come later down the line. Yeah, so that's about it for the moment. We've been busy doing bits and bobs. I've had a change of mind with the wheels. I'll put a picture of what the wheels are going to be like. I was going to run the 14-inch steels, have them banded, just so it looks a bit different. But I really like the G60 steels with the flat caps. I think they just look a lot nicer. So that's what I'm going to go for, a set of G60 15-inch ones, which are plenty wide enough to fill the arches. Flat caps on there. And I'll stick a picture of someone kindly Photoshop for me. So yeah, hopefully a couple of months I reckon I'll have it running. Fingers crossed. I say the car just needs wheels on it, CV joints for drive shafts. I have stripped those and cleaned those, painting those there in the boot. Yeah, engine, need pistons for that, and then comrod bearings, ARP bolts, ARP headstock kit, head gasket and stuff. The head can go on. Yeah, so the next 2 or 3 months I think things are going to come together quite quickly, which is good, because I can't wait to get out driving it in this lovely weather. I also did have a bit of a heart attack. I was under the bonnet doing throttle cables and bits and bobs, and I did still have the plastic sheeting up because I couldn't be arsed pulling down, and it's a good job I left it up there, because during the heat, obviously the garage is getting a lot warmer in here. These cross beams, I didn't build the garage, these cross beams were only held in with like 6mm wood screws, and they didn't even fully go through, obviously, the thickness of the wood. And this one had actually, the screws, you could see the screws, they do go straight in, but when it had snapped, the screw on the back, you could see the screw had gone from in like that, twisted, and then snapped, and that whole beam had dropped down, and it was literally only the plastic sheeting stopping that beam from landing right there. So yeah, I was pretty lucky that I didn't even notice that I was doing that, and the missus came in and said, "Oh, what's wrong with that sheeting?" I looked up, I was like, "Oh, that is a bit low, isn't it?" yeah, and turns out the beam had gone. So Garrett had to have a bit of a rethink. So I took all of them down. Well, got a bit of wood on the main structure, got a trolley jack and just jacked up to take the weight, and then drilled and bolted them 12 bolts, nylock straight through all of them. So they're a bit stronger, so hopefully that won't be falling down the car. Yeah.